There's something haunting about the sound of distant howls, carried on a cold night's wind, a whisper of something ancient, something otherworldly. If you've ever stood alone in the dark, listening to the unseen, you know that chill creeping up your spine. Tonight, we're stepping into that eerie stillness, into the legend of the spectral wild hunt. Whether you're curled up under blankets or watching the stars from your window, we'd love to know where you're joining us from and what time your journey into this mystery begins. Drop a comment below. Let's weave our own story together as we unravel the secrets of this ghostly procession. Picture this: a lone traveler, cloak tattered by the wind, standing atop a desolate hill. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and something far older, a presence that lingers just beyond sight. In their trembling hand, an ancient amulet hums with forgotten power, its engravings worn smooth by generations of desperate fingers. It's said the wild hunt rides when the veil between worlds grows thin, when the dead stir and the living hold their breath. But who leads this ghostly cavalcade? And what do they seek in the dead of night? This isn't just a tale to frighten children around a fire. The wild hunt is a thread woven through countless cultures, a spectral echo of something deeper, our fear of the unknown, our longing to understand what waits beyond the edge of light. From whispered village legends to the pages of myth, the hunt has always been more than a story. It's a warning, a call, maybe even an invitation. So settle in, because tonight, we're tracing its shadowy path through history, through folklore, and through the very heart of what it means to face the unseen. The night is long, and the hunt is riding, but you're not alone in watching for its return. The village is silent, but not with peace, with dread. The travelers' boots crunch over frostbitten leaves as they step past cottages with shuttered windows, doors barred tight despite the early hour. Whispers slither through cracks in the walls, fragments of conversations cut short at their approach. Then, a flash of movement, a child's hand darting out from behind a rain barrel, clutching a scrap of parchment. The drawing is rough, charcoal smudged by small, frantic fingers, but the shapes are clear. Horses with hollow ribs, riders clad in armor that seems to bleed shadows, their spears tipped with jagged light. At the tavern, the air thickens with the scent of ale and unease. The villagers avoid the traveler's gaze, their knuckles white around tankards. Only the elder speaks, their voice a dry rasp, like wind through dead branches. They come when the moon is fat and the wind carries the scent of mortal fear. They murmur, fingers tracing a scar on the table, a mark too precise to be accidental. The hunt does not chase, it chooses, and those who look too long, their eyes flick to the door, as if expecting it to burst open. They become part of the parade. Now the traveler stands at the crossroads literally and otherwise. Behind them, the safety of ignorance, the warmth of a fire they might yet reach before midnight. Ahead, the forest path, where the trees lean close as if listening, where the moon paints the way in silver and suspicion. Folklore is clear. To seek the wild hunt is to invite its gaze. But legends also whisper of those who outran the riders, who bargained with their leader, who stole secrets from the dead and lived to tell. The choice hangs heavy because some doors, once opened, won't close again. And the night is very, very long. The archive smells of old parchment and something darker, a metallic tang clinging to the air like dried blood on ancient blades. Moonlight slants through high windows, illuminating motes of dust that swirl as the traveler brushes fingertips over the book's cracked leather cover. The scholar's grip tightens on their shoulder, nails biting through fabric. Some histories hunger to be remembered. They whisper, voice frayed at the edges. This one has teeth. Inside, the pages seem to shift under the traveler's gaze, ink slithering into new shapes, as if resisting comprehension. The illustrations are no mere drawings. They move. A painted hound snaps its jaws soundlessly. A skeletal rider's cloak billows in an unfelt wind. The text tells of a king and his warband, proud men who swore an oath in a tongue not meant for mortal lips. Their punishment for breaking it, to hunt forever between worlds, neither living nor dead, their steeds' hooves striking sparks from the roots of reality itself. Here, pressed between passages on celestial alignments and drowned cities, lies the ritual, a circle of black salt, a name spoken backward into a mirror at midnight. The scholar recoils as the traveler traces the words, their breath quickening. That name isn't a summons, it's a challenge, they hiss. The leader doesn't come when called. He comes to claim, yet the book offers one sliver of hope, a mention of the Horned One, a figure older than the hunt, who might bend its purpose for a price. The scholar slams the tome shut before the traveler can read further, but not before they glimpse a final warning, a sketch of a face half-eaten by moths, its remaining eye wide with terror. The candle gutters. Somewhere far off, a horn sounds, its note vibrating in the bones rather than the air. The scholar's hands are shaking now. You've tasted the story, they murmur. Now it tastes you back. The traveler steps into the night, the ritual steps burning behind their eyes. Every shadow seems to ripple with unseen movement. The wind carries laughter like breaking glass. They came seeking answers, but the truth is this. The wild hunt isn't just a story you hear, it's one you join. The dream lingers like smoke in the traveler's lungs' hoof, beats pounding in time with their pulse, spectral cries, twisting into something almost like words. When they jerk awake, the fire has died to embers, and their breath hangs in the air despite the season. Frost creeps across their bedroll in delicate, spiraling patterns, too intricate to be natural. And then, the weight of being watched. Between the trees, a shape flickers tall, too still, its outline wavering like heat off a dagger left in the sun. One heartbeat, it's there, the next, gone. But the imprint remains, seared behind the eyelids. The hunt doesn't just ride, it listens, it remembers, and now it knows. The traveler packs with trembling hands, their movements sharp with the kind of fear that sharpens senses. Every rustle of leaves is a rider dismounting. Every snap of a twig is the creak of spectral armor. Legends spoke of the hunt's omniscience, but this is different, this is personal. The villagers' warnings coil in their mind, they don't chase. They choose. Was it the book, the ritual half-read, or simply the act of looking, of daring to witness what was meant to pass unseen? Dawn should bring relief, but the forest holds its breath. Even the birds are silent. The traveler's path forks one road, winding back to the village, the other plunging deeper into the pines, where the sunlight struggles to reach. Logic screams to retreat, but something older, something coiled in the marrow, whispers that running won't save them now. The hunt prefers prey with fight left in them. A crow alights on a low branch, its beak parted as if to speak. Instead, it drops a single feather, black as a starless sky. The traveler catches it and recoils. The shaft is ice cold, the veins patterned with symbols that weren't there a moment ago. A message or a marker. The wind rises, carrying the scent of damp earth and something metallic, like a storm laced with old blood. Time bends in the hunt's presence. Minutes stretch like taffy. Hours collapse into instants. The traveler's heartbeat thrums in their throat as they press forward, because one truth has crystallized. Turning back won't break the hunt's gaze. Only a bargain might, or a betrayal. But first, they'll need to find the horned one, if such a being even wants to be found. The trees grow denser, their trunks scored with markings that sting to touch. The crow follows silent. Ahead, a clearing, and in its center, a stone slab, worn smooth by centuries of what? Offerings, blades. The air hums, thick with the static of a storm about to break. The traveler's fingers brush the amulet at their neck, the one passed down through generations, the one that hummed in the archive. It's warm now, too warm. Somewhere beyond the tree line, a horn sounds, not in the air, in the bones. The hunt is close, and it's not just riding tonight, it's hunting. The rowan charm rests in the hermit's palm, its wood unnaturally smooth, as if worn down by countless desperate fingers before this moment. The air around it shimmers faintly, like heat rising from summer stone. It's not just a shield. The hermit murmurs, their voice frayed at the edges, as though speaking through layers of time. It's a mirror. The hunt sees its own reflection and hesitates, just long enough for you to slip past its notice. Their eyes, milky with age yet sharp as flint, flick to the locket clutched in the traveler's grip. But mirrors require light to work, and light that comes from you. The traveler's thumb brushes the locket's cold metal. Inside, a portrait no larger than a coin, a face that still surfaces in their dreams, laughter etched into memory like carvings in bark. The hermit doesn't ask for the locket itself. That would be too simple. They ask for the weight behind it, the visceral tug of recollection that comes when the traveler traces the chain. The first snowfall shared, the last promise spoken, the way the world seemed to fracture when it went unkept. Legends often speak of bargains with the unseen, but rarely do they mention the quiet violence of choice. The hermit's hut creaks around them, its walls hung with dried herbs and bundles of feathers, each tied with thread the color of old blood. A crow, or is it the same one from the forest, pecks at the windowsill, its beak tapping a rhythm like a countdown. Memory isn't just what you lose, the hermit adds, pressing the charm forward. It's what the hunt gains. They feed on echoes, on the edges of stories left unfinished. The traveler's breath hitches. To forget would be a kind of death, but to be caught by the hunt, would that not be worse? Somewhere beyond the trees, a branch snaps. Not from wind, from weight. The hermit's gaze darts to the window, their fingers tightening around the charm. They're closer than you think, they whisper. And they're not just riding tonight, they're hungry. A gust rattles the door in its frame. The candle flame gutters, stretching shadows into grotesque shapes, antlered figures, hounds with too many teeth. The traveler's hand trembles as it hovers between the locket and the charm. Here's the terrible truth. Some choices aren't about survival. They're about what you're willing to surrender to remain yourself. The locket clicks open one last time. The face inside smiles up at them. Frozen in a moment the hunt can never touch. The rowan wood grows warm in their palm. The incantation begins, and somewhere in the space between heartbeats, something unravels. The earth beneath the traveler's boots feels wrong, not soft, not solid, but hollow, as if the forest floor is just a thin crust over something vast and waiting. Every step sends vibrations through the ground, tiny tremors that stir the roots coiled beneath the soil. The trees here don't just stand, they lean, their gnarled branches knitting together like bony fingers, closing off the sky. And they whisper, not in words, not in any language meant for living tongues, but in something older, something that slithers into the mind as sensation rather than sound. Turn back, turn back. A gust of wind slices through the clearing, carrying the stench of wet fur and rusted metal. The traveler spins, catching only a flicker of movement, a rider, clad in armor that drinks in the moonlight, their mount's eyes burning like embers in a dying fire. Then gone, but the air thrums with their presence, a pressure against the skin, like the charged silence before a storm breaks. The raven's banner lies at the traveler's feet, its fabric frayed, but its sigil still visible, a horned skull wreathed in thorns. Not a taunt, a declaration. The hunt knows they're here, and it's marking them as its own. The deeper they press into the woods, the more the world distorts. Trees twist into grotesque parodies of themselves, their bark splitting to reveal veins of phosphorescent moss that pulse faintly, as if breathing. Shadows move independently of their sources, stretching too long or recoiling at the traveler's approach. And always, just beyond the edge of vision, the riders, never close enough to confront, never far enough to ignore. Their laughter echoes, a sound like shattering ice, slipping between the trees as effortlessly as smoke. Then the ground shudders, not a tremor this time, but a heave, as if something beneath the earth has stirred in its sleep. The traveler stumbles, their hand catching against a tree trunk. The bark splits under their touch, oozing a thick, dark sap that reeks of iron. The forest is alive, and it's bleeding. Ahead, the path forks, but neither option offers solace. To the left, a bridge of gnarled roots arches over a ravine, its far end lost in mist. To the right, a tunnel formed by interlocking briars, their thorns glistening with that same unnatural sap. Both routes hum with energy, a vibration that sets the traveler's teeth on edge. There's no right choice here, only the hunt's game, its rules written in whispers and warnings. The raven circles overhead, its skeletal wings silent. It doesn't caw, it doesn't need to. The message is clear, the forest isn't just a place, it's a participant. And it's watching. Every snapped twig, every indrawn breath is a move in this deadly dance. The traveler grips the rowan charm tighter, its warmth the only anchor in this shifting nightmare. They take the bridge because some doors once opened won't close again, and some paths once chosen can't be undone. The mist swallows them whole. Behind, the horn sounds again, closer now, hungrier. The hunt isn't just riding tonight, it's closing in. The survivor's shack reeks of damp wool and something sharper. Fierce sweat, maybe, or the metallic tang of a wound left untended. Their fingers scrabble at the traveler's sleeve, nails leaving crescent moons in the fabric. They didn't ride past, They rasp, voice shredded as if they've been screaming for days. They stopped, looked at us, like we were choices. A shudder racks their thin frame, their pupils swallowing the dim candlelight. The fire gutters, though no draft stirs the air. Across the rough-hewn table, a mug of untouched tea grows a skin of frost. The survivor doesn't seem to notice. Their gaze drills into the middle distance, seeing not the peeling wallpaper, but whatever horror still rides the edges of their vision. My cousin, Leora, she laughed, said it was just the wind, a wet click in their throat. Then the hounds came, not from the trees, from behind her shadow. Like they'd been there all along, the traveler leans in, the rowan charm a burning weight against their chest. What did the leader look like? The survivor's breath hitches. For a heartbeat, the only sound is the drip of condensation from the ceiling, each drop hitting the floor with unnatural precision. Then a whimper, not a face. A hole where a face should be, full of stars. Their hands fly up, clawing at their own cheeks as if to check they're still whole, and the crown not metal. Bones twisting, living bones. Outside, the wind rises, howling through the cracks in the door like it's searching for something. The survivor lurches upright, chair screeching against the floorboards. You think you want answers. They spit, suddenly lucid, their voice raw with a rage that doesn't feel entirely their own. The hunt doesn't give answers. It takes your voice, your memories, your name. A fit of coughing doubles them over. When they straighten, their lips are flecked with something dark. Not blood, ash. The traveler reaches for them, but the survivor recoils, backing into a corner like a trapped animal. You'll see, they whisper, sliding down the wall into a crouch. When the horn sounds for you, when the king turns that absence toward you, you'll wish you just kept running. Their laughter is brittle, breaking apart like old parchment. Too late now, they've tasted your curiosity. That's all the invitation they need. By dawn, the survivor is gone, not fled, vanished. No footprints in the mud outside, no snapped twigs to mark their passage. Just a single, perfect circle of frost on the floorboards where they'd huddled, and within it, a tuft of coarse black fur that crumbles to dust at the traveler's touch. The air smells of lightning and old blood. Somewhere far off, a raven croaks once, twice. A countdown. The traveler steps over the threshold, their breath clouding in air too warm for frost. Behind them, the shack's door swings shut with a finality that echoes. Ahead, the forest waits, its shadows deeper than they were yesterday. The survivor's warnings coil in their mind, but so does the image of that crown of writhing bone. A king in shadows, a leader with a face made of hungry dark. The traveler's fingers find the locket at their throat, its metal icy now, as if something has leached all the warmth from it. They walk anyway, because some questions once asked demand answers, and some roads once taken only lead deeper. The ruined chapel stands crooked against the sky, its stones slick with moss, and something darker centuries of whispered prayers turn to rust-colored streaks down the walls. The travelers torchlight gutters as they step over the threshold, the flame bending away from the altar as if afraid. There, in the center of the crumbling space, the stone table gleams wetly, its surface pitted with grooves that channel toward a deep, blackened hollow at its center. Not just stains, purposeful. The air tastes of iron and burnt hair, thick enough to choke on. The carvings are what steal the traveler's breath. They spiral outward from the altar, not etched but seared into the rock, as if branded by fingers made of lightning. Here, the hunt's leader looms larger than the others, antlers twisting up from his brow like dead branches, clawing at the sky. Unlike the survivor's description, this face isn't absent. It's too full. Eyes like cracked obsidian, a mouth parted mid-sentence, offering not a threat but a bargain. One hand holds a horn, the other outstretched, palm up. In it, a tiny figure kneels, their features blurred by time or terror. The message is clear. Submission isn't defeat, it's survival. A gust slams the chapel door shut behind them. The torch snuffs out, plunging the space into a black so complete it feels alive. The travelers pulse jackhammers in their throat, their fingers scrambling for the Rowan charm, but it's gone cold. Silent then the breathing, not their own, something close, too close. A draft slithers down their spine, carrying the scent of damp earth and rotted leaves, of meat left too long in the sun. The altar groans, stone grinds against stone, as the hollow at its center yawns wider, exhaling air so frigid it burns. Something shifts in the dark, not a shape. A presence, the weight of centuries pressing down, of eyes older than the chapel, tracing the curve of the traveler's jaw, the flutter of their pulse. No words come, none are needed. The carvings said it all. The horned one doesn't demand worship. He collects debts, a click, the scrape of talon on stone. The traveler recoils, but not fast enough. Fingers, long and jointed wrong, brush their wrist, not to seize, to test. The touch lingers, freezing the blood beneath the skin. Then a voice, if it can be called that, a sound like roots splitting rock, like ice forming over a still warm corpse. You carry a name in your throat, it murmurs. Spit it out, little ember, or swallow it whole. The torch flares back to life, sudden and blinding. The chapel stands empty, but on the altar, where the hollow once gaped, lies a single, twisted horn, its surface etched with the same spirals as the carvings. And beside it, a tuft of coarse black fur, still twitching. The traveler reaches, then freezes, because the door is open again, and outside, the trees are bending. Not from wind, from passage. The hunt isn't coming, it's here. Hooves shake the earth like thunder, close enough now that the traveler feels each strike reverberate through their ribs. The hunt's riders crest the hill behind them, silhouetted against a moon swollen and red as an open wound. Their steeds aren't horses, not truly. Ribs press against translucent flesh. Eyes burn with a light that doesn't belong to this world, and their breath curls in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. The leader's crown of bones glints, his hollow face turned toward the fleeing figure, not chasing yet, savoring. The traveler's boots skid on wet leaves as they veer toward the bridge, an ancient span of blackened wood, its ropes frayed and singing in the wind. Halfway across, the planks groan, then snap, the world tilts. For a heartbeat, the traveler hangs suspended, the river below a silvered ribbon in the moonlight. Then the icy embrace of water, shocking as a blade to the chest. The current drags them under, twisting limbs, filling their mouth with the taste of iron and rotting reeds. Above, the hunt halts at the riverbank. The lead rider lifts a gauntleted hand, and the others, still as if bound by invisible reins, no anger in the gesture. Only patience. The river has always been a threshold, a place where the old rules hold sway. The water thrums with something older than the hunt, older than the forest, a promise carved into its currents long before men thought to name it. The riders won't cross, not yet. Gasping, the traveler claws their way onto the far shore, muscles seizing with cold. Behind them, the bridge's remnants smolder strangely, as if the ropes burned without flame. But the true terror isn't the near drowning, it's the silence. No hoofbeats, no horns, just the quiet certainty that this isn't escape. It's a delay. The hunt doesn't abandon its quarry. It circles, it waits, and the river, it watches too. Its surface ripples unnaturally, as if something beneath, something vast, has turned over in its sleep. The traveler staggers to their feet, dripping water that shouldn't be so thick, so dark. The droplets cling like oil, whispering as they slide from skin to soil. A warning, a marker. The hunt may not cross the water, but the night is long, and all rivers bend eventually. Somewhere in the trees, a raven croaks. Not in mockery, in mourning. The wind dies the moment the traveler steps into the clearing, as if the very air holds its breath. At its center, a gnarled oak twists skyward, its trunk split down the middle like a wound that never healed. From the fissure seeps a glow, not warm like firelight, but the sickly green of swamp gas caught in moonlight, and then the voice, not from the tree. From the ground itself, vibrating up through the soles of their boots, rattling their bones with words too old for mortal tongues. You carry his mark, it whispers, the sound like roots snapping underfoot. Not the amulet, the yearning, the hunger to know what waits in the dark. The earth shifts, exhaling a plume of damp soil and something metallic. A shape coalesces in the oak's shadow, a figure of woven brambles and bleached antlers, its eyes two pits of absolute absence. The hunt doesn't ride for sport, it reaps. Every soul taken joins the ranks, bound to a war even the dead fear. The traveler's hand flies to their throat, not to the amulet, but to the scar beneath it, a thin white line they'd carried since childhood. The spirit's laugh is the creak of a noose tightening. You think it an accident, a scratch from a fall. The king's teeth leave deeper marks than flesh. Around them, the clearing darkens, the trees pressing closer. The spirit's form wavers, its voice fraying like rotten thread. The pact that bound him demands a tithe, one mortal soul for every century, one life to leash the rest. But you, a skeletal finger extends, brushing the amulet. The metal screams, you're more than prey, you're a key. The revelation hits like a blow. The amulet is an award. It's an anchor, a tether to the very oath that cursed the hunt's king. The spirit hisses, its form unraveling. Break it at the crossroads where worlds bleed together. Shatter the chain, and the hunt shatters with it. The words cost it. The glow in the oak dims, the roots retracting with a sound like weeping. But heed this, to face him is to feed him. His power lives in the fear he harvests. Stand tall, little spark, or burn like all the rest. The clearing empties, the wind returns, howling through the branches like a dirge. The traveler staggers back, the amulet searing against their skin, its engravings writhing. Choices crystallize. Flee now, and the hunt's shadow would dog their steps forever. Or walk willingly into the storm, armed with nothing but a dying spirit's riddle and the weight of their own name. Somewhere beyond the trees, a horn sounds closer now, triumphant. The hunt knows its quarry is cornered, but corners have edges, and edges can cut both ways. The air thickens with the metallic tang of blood and something older, a scent like lightning struck stone. Above, the moon swells crimson, its light staining the clearing in hues of rust and dried roses. The travelers' fingers tremble as they trace the final sigil in the damp earth, salt gritting under their nails, their own blood mingling with the soil in thin, deliberate lines. The symbols pulse faintly, drinking in the moonlight, their edges shimmering as if viewed through heat haze. This isn't just a ritual, it's an awakening. A gust tears through the clearing, snatching the traveler's breath away. The wind doesn't move like wind should. It coils, slithering around their ankles before lashing upward in a spiral that sends dead leaves spinning like a crown of thorns. The shadows between the trees deepen, then writhe, pulling free of their anchors to pool at the clearing's center. They twist, knotting together, elongating into something towering, something that carries weight without substance. The king of the hunt doesn't step into the world, he unravels into it. First, the antlers' jagged arcs of bone that seem to fracture the moonlight, casting strange, shifting patterns across the ground. Then the armor, if it can be called that, plates of darkness that ripple like liquid, etched with scars that might be old wounds or forgotten names. And finally, the face. Or rather, the absence. Where features should be, there's only a yawning void, a maw of starless night that pulls at the traveler's gaze, threatening to swallow not just sight, but thought itself. The silence is worse than any roar. The king doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His presence is a language carved into the bones of the world, a pressure against the skin that whispers of choices made in desperation, of oaths broken and debts unpaid. The traveler's amulet burns against their chest, its metal searing through fabric, branding the outline of its spirals into their flesh. A reminder, some contracts are written in blood. Others in time. The king lifts a hand not to strike, but to offer. His palm is a void, yet within it flickers a reflection. The traveler, not as they are now, but as they could be. Clad in the same shadow-forged armor, astride a steed of smoke and embers, their face obscured by the same terrible absence. The vision wavers, then splits 100 possibilities, 100 fates, all ending the same way, riding, always riding, with no memory of the life before. The ritual's symbols flare, their light slicing through the illusion. The traveler's voice cracks as they speak the words from the scholar's book, the syllables clumsy on a tongue, never meant to shape them. The king tilts his head, that hollow gaze boring deeper, weighing the worth of this mortal who dares to bargain with the storm. Then the ground shudders. Not from the hunt's approach, but from something beneath, something that answers. The river's distant roar swells, though no water flows nearby. The oak's roots tremble, though no wind stirs its branches. The king goes utterly still. For the first time, the void where his face should be turns not toward the traveler, but past them into the trees, watching. Waiting, the ritual was never just a summons. It was a challenge, and somewhere in the dark, something older than the hunt has begun to stir. The king's voice splits the silence like frozen branches, giving way underfoot, a sound that isn't heard so much as felt in the marrow. You've walked the edges of my realm, it whispers, each word laced with the weight of centuries. You've tasted the dark between stars. Why cling to a life that will crumble to dust? His outstretched hand doesn't move, yet it seems to grow closer, the void of his palm swirling with visions. The traveler clad in spectral armor, riding at the front of the hunt, their face erased but their name echoing through the night like a war cry. It's not just immortality he offers, it's purpose, a place in a story that never ends. The temptation coils tight around the traveler's ribs. To accept would mean answers. Why the amulet hummed in the archive, why the survivor's warnings felt like half-remembered dreams. No more running, no more fear, just the wild, unfettered rush of the hunt, the power to carve through worlds like a blade through fog. But beneath the promise lurks the truth. The king doesn't grant freedom. He trades one cage for another. The hunt rides forever because it must. Bound by the same pact that cursed its leader, every rider becomes a thread in the same endless tapestry, their individuality swallowed by the storm. The traveler's fingers twitch toward the amulet. It's burning now, its heat searing through fabric, branding their skin with sigils that pulse in time with the king's breath. A choice hangs in the air, sharp as a blade balanced on its edge. To join means surrendering not just their life, but their memories. The locket's portrait fading to blank metal, the hermit's hut dissolving into mist, even the survivor's terror reduced to just another whisper in the wind. The king tilts his head, that hollow gaze drinking in their hesitation. All mortals break, he murmurs. The only difference is whether you kneel or fall. And then, the crack in his offer, a flicker in the void of his palm. Not the traveler's reflection, but a glimpse of something older, a horned figure watching from the trees. The horned one, the king's hand spasms, the vision snuffed out like a candle, but the traveler sees. The hunt's monarch isn't all-powerful. He fears something too. The clearing holds its breath. The king's offer isn't withdrawn. It lingers, heavy as a noose, but now there's a third path, whispering at the edges of thought. Not to flee, not to kneel, to break the game entirely. The amulet's heat surges, its pain a clarion call. Some oaths aren't meant to last forever, and some chains, no matter how ancient, can still rust. The rowan charm blazes white hot in the traveler's grip, its light slicing through the king's void like a knife through silk. For a heartbeat, the clearing holds perfectly still, no wind, no breath, not even the creak of branches. Then the king's rage shatters the silence. His crown of bones twists inward, jagged points elongating like claws as his form swells, shadows boiling around him like storm clouds. The air itself seems to recoil, pressing against the traveler's skin with an almost physical weight. You dare, the words aren't spoken. They're etched into the world, each syllable leaving cracks in the earth beneath their feet. The horn sounds not from the trees this time, but from everywhere at once, vibrating in the traveler's teeth, their ribs, the hollows of their eyes. The hunt answers. Hoofbeats shake the ground, closer with every thundering pulse, and between the trees, figures emerge. Not just riders now, but the lost ones too, those taken by the hunt in centuries past, their faces half-formed, their voices woven into the chorus of the king's fury. They spill into the clearing like smoke given shape, spectral spears glinting with stolen starlight. The traveler's throat tightens, but their fingers don't loosen around the charm. The ritual's words rise unbidden, spilling from their lips in a language they've never learned yet somehow know. Each syllable is a spark, igniting the air with golden threads that weave between the trees, forming a net of light. The king snarls, lashing out, but the threads hold, shimmering where his shadows strike. The charm isn't just a shield, it's a reckoning, a piece of whatever power bound the hunt in the first place, humming with the memory of an older law. And then the true clash begins. The king's riders charge, their steeds' hooves striking sparks from empty air, while the traveler stands rooted, the charm's light flaring brighter with every word. The ground heaves, roots erupting like serpents to tangle the hunt's advance. The sky darkens, then splits, a fork of lightning searing down to strike the oak, its trunk splitting with a sound like 1,000 voices screaming. In that instant, the traveler sees it, the flaw in the king's armor, the crack in his crown where the bones don't quite meet, the horned one's warning echoes. His power lies in the fear he harvests. The king isn't just a hunter, he's a parasite, feeding on dread, on the certainty that no one can resist him. But the traveler isn't afraid anymore. Their next words aren't from the ritual, they're their own, a name, not the king's true name, but the one he was given before the crown, before the oath that damned him. The charm shatters, light erupts, not in a burst, but in a wave, rolling outward to meet the shadows. For one impossible moment, the clearing holds its breath. Then the world breaks. The light fades, leaving behind an eerie stillness that presses against the traveler's skin like a held breath. The amulet lies in fragments, its once gleaming metal dull and lifeless, as if whatever power it contained had burned itself out in that final, desperate moment. The air smells different now, not of damp earth or iron, but of something clean and sharp, like the first frost after a long autumn. The hunt is gone. The riders, the hounds, even the oppressive weight of the king's presence, vanished as though they were never there at all, but the silence is its own kind of haunting. No birds call, no wind stirs the leaves, even the river's distant murmur has gone quiet, as if the land itself is waiting to see what comes next. The traveler's hands tremble, the skin cracked and bluish from the cold, yet there's no pain. Only numbness, a strange trade, the amulet's protection for something deeper, something irreversible. They kneel, fingers brushing the shattered pieces, and for the first time, they notice the markings etched into each fragment. Not random cracks, but letters. Names, dozens of them, worn faint with age, yet unmistakable. The lost, the taken, the ones who came before and didn't survive the bargain. A gust of wind finally breaks the stillness, carrying with it the faintest echo of a horn, not the hunt's triumphant bellow, but something mournful, distant. A farewell or a warning, the traveler's breath hitches. They'd expected relief, victory. Instead, there's only a hollow ache, the gnawing sense that this isn't over. The king may be banished, but the forest remembers. The roots beneath their feet twitch, as if something buried deep is stirring in its sleep. The trees lean closer, their bark split in places, revealing veins of that same sickly green glow from the oak. And then the whisper, not from the trees, not from the wind, but from the amulet's ruins. A voice so soft it might be imagination, yet it stops the traveler's heart mid-beat. You broke the chain, it sighs, but the links are still there, and chains a pause, long enough for the traveler's pulse to thunder in their ears. Chains can always be reforged. The survivor's words return like a blow. The hunt doesn't give answers, it takes. The traveler had thought they were fighting for freedom, for an end, but some curses aren't meant to be broken, only passed on. They straighten, fists clenched, and turn toward the path ahead. The forest parts before them, not in welcome, but in challenge. Because the true cost of survival isn't just what you lose, it's what you carry forward. Somewhere beyond the trees, a crow takes flight, its wings cutting through the heavy air. The traveler follows, not because they're ready, but because the night isn't done with them yet. The village gates loom ahead, their weathered wood groaning in the wind, like an old man shifting in his sleep. The traveler's footsteps falter, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of eyes upon them. Faces peer from cracked doorways, their expressions caught between reverence and terror. A child drops a wooden toy, the clatter echoing like a gunshot in the unnatural hush. The air smells of damp wool and burnt herbs, of hurried prayers whispered behind locked shutters. The elder waits at the crossroads, their shawl dusted with early snow, fingers curled around a staff carved with warnings. They don't ask where the traveler has been. They don't need to. The hollows beneath the elder's eyes are darker now, their gaze lingering on the traveler's hands, on the absence of the amulet, on the fresh scars that spiral up their wrists like vines. It's done, the elder murmurs, not a question, but an acknowledgement. The hunt won't ride this winter. A pause, a breath held too long, but you didn't kill it. The traveler's throat tightens. They'd hoped for relief in this moment, for the loosening of a knot tied too tight. Instead, there's only the gnawing truth. The hunt is older than names, older than memory. It doesn't die, it hibernates. Somewhere beyond the frozen river, in the spaces between breaths, it's already knitting itself back together, gathering new shadows, new hunger. And when it returns, because it always returns, it won't be the same. The king may be gone, but crowns don't stay empty for long. A woman steps forward, pressing a bundle into the traveler's hands, rough spun cloth, wrapped around a loaf of dark bread, still warm from the oven. Her fingers brush theirs, lingering just a heartbeat too long. "You're marked," she whispers, her voice frayed, not with fear, with recognition. The traveler's reflection in her eyes isn't their own. The edges blur, the pupils too wide, the silhouette crowned with the faintest suggestion of antlers. They flinch, but the vision holds. The village isn't just grateful, they're preparing. The elder's staff taps the ground once, a sound like a bone snapping. "Rest," they say, though their tone suggests it's an order, not an offer. The snows are heavy this year. Roads will be closed by dawn. The unspoken meaning lingers, stay. Just until spring, just until we're sure. The traveler's fists clench. They've spent enough nights listening for hoofbeats in the wind. But when they turn toward the inn, the villagers don't scatter. They step aside, not to let the traveler pass, to watch them go. Inside, the fire pops and hisses, its light painting the walls with shapes that twist if stared at too long. The traveler sits, their back to the corner, their face to the door. The bread sits untouched. Outside, the wind rises, howling through the eaves like a thing in pain. Or maybe laughter. The hunt is gone, for now, but the night is long, and the woods are never empty. Somewhere, a crow caws. Somewhere, a horn gathers its breath. And somewhere, closer than anyone wants to admit, a new king is dreaming. The hearth's warmth never quite reaches the traveler's bones anymore. Even in the thickest furs, beside the brightest fire, that chill lingers, a whisper of frost beneath the skin, clinging like the memory of a wound. At first, they blamed the season. Winter had always been cruel, but then came the mornings when their breath didn't fog the air, when their fingers left no prints in the frost-glazed grass. The villagers notice. They leave bowls of stew at the traveler's door without knocking, their footsteps hurried as they retreat. The river offers no comfort either. Kneeling at its edge to drink, the traveler catches their reflection and freezes. For a heartbeat, the face in the water isn't theirs. The eyes are darker, the pupils slit like a stag's, the outline of antlers just brushing the edges of the ripples. Then it's gone, leaving only the familiar exhaustion, the scars from the amulet's final burst. But the vision lingers, not as a hallucination, but as a truth too sharp to ignore. The hunt didn't just mark them. It left something behind, a seed, a shadow, a question wrapped in thorns. Sleep brings no reprieve. Dreams are no longer dreams, but journeys vast forests, stretching under twin moons, the scent of damp earth and lightning, the sound of hooves pacing just beyond sight. Once, the traveler woke with their palms pressed to the floorboards, fingers curled as if gripping reins. That morning, the innkeeper found a single black feather on the windowsill, its edges singed. The elder watches from a distance, their gaze heavy with knowing. The old stories speak of this. They murmur one evening, pressing a cup of bitter tea into the traveler's hands. Not all who face the hunt are taken. Some are altered, like metal shaped by a forge. The steam coils upward, forming shapes too fleeting to name. The question isn't whether you won, the elder continues, voice dropping to a whisper. It's what you became in the winning. And then, the worst truth of all, the traveler doesn't fear the change. There's a pull in their chest when the wind howls just so, a thrill at the scent of storms gathering on the horizon. The villagers' whispers don't sting, they sound like reverence. The nights grow longer, and with them, a hunger, not for flesh or fear, but for the wild, untamed rush of the hunt itself. By the time the first snow melts, the traveler no longer startles at their reflection. They simply nod to the antlered figure in the water, as if greeting an old friend. The road calls, but not the well-trodden path to the next village. There are older roads, half hidden beneath moss and memory, where the trees lean close to listen. Somewhere beyond them, a horn echoes not in warning, but in welcome. The traveler adjusts their pack, feels the weight of something new stirring beneath their ribs, and steps forward. Not as prey, not as a survivor, as something in between. The pack feels lighter now, though the traveler carries more than just a bedroll and a water skin. The weight isn't in the straps biting their shoulders. It's in the way the trees seem to lean in as they pass, their branches whispering secrets in a language just beyond understanding. The road stretches ahead, a ribbon of dirt and worn stone, but the traveler's gaze keeps drifting to the spaces between, the narrow deer trails, the overgrown paths where the underbrush parts like a curtain, inviting. There are other stories waiting, other terrors crouched in the dark corners of the world. The survivor's hollow eyes, the scholar's trembling hands, the hermit's riddles. These were just the first verses of a song that never ends. A gust of wind snakes through the clearing, carrying the scent of rain and something muskier, wilder. The traveler pauses, fingers brushing the rough bark of a birch. The scars on their wrist throb faintly, a reminder that some wounds don't heal, they transform. The villagers' fear had been palpable, but so had their awe. They hadn't just seen a survivor, they'd seen an omen, a herald. The traveler's reflection in the river hadn't lied. Something lingers beneath their skin, a spark left by the hunt's passing, and it hums in time with the distant thunder. The first raindrops kiss the traveler's cheeks as the sky darkens, but they don't quicken their steps. Storms have always been more than weather in these parts. Their portents, conversations. Somewhere far off, a branch cracks too loud, too deliberate. The traveler doesn't turn. They know better than to look directly at the things that move just beyond sight. Instead, they adjust their pack, feeling the shape of the horned figure's gift tucked safely inside. Not a weapon, not a shield, a key. The road forks again, as roads always do. To the left, a well-trodden path leading to the next village, where lanterns already glow in the twilight. To the right, a trail swallowed by ferns and shadow, where the air shimmers with the faintest hint of green. The traveler hesitates for only a heartbeat. The horn's echo lingers in their bones, not as a warning, but as a challenge. The hunt may be scattered, but the woods are never empty. And the night is always listening. They step off the path, leaves crunching underfoot, and vanish into the gathering dark. Somewhere ahead, a crow laughs. Somewhere behind, the wind carries the sound of hooves not chasing, not yet, keeping pace, waiting. The journey isn't over. It's just changing shape. The dawn paints the horizon in shades of gold and rust, but the traveler doesn't pause to admire it. Their boots crunch over frost-kissed grass, each step carrying them farther from the village, yet never truly away from what happened. The weight of understanding settles in their chest, not as relief, but as a kind of quiet reckoning. To know the wild hunt is to know the hunger at the heart of all stories, the void that demands to be fed. It isn't just a curse or a legend, it's a mirror, and what stares back is never simple. The road ahead is empty, but the air thrums with something unseen. A crow's call slices through the morning hush, too sharp to be accidental. The traveler's shadow stretches long behind them, its edges blurred, as if something else walks in their footsteps. They don't look back. They know what they'd see, not just the path they've walked, but the marks they've left. The villagers' wary gazes, the elders' knowing silence, the way the forest still parts for them like a bow to a blade. The hunt may be scattered, but its absence is its own kind of presence. A story doesn't end when the last page turns. It waits. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. The traveler's fingers brush the scars on their wrist, the raised lines now pulsing faintly, not with pain, but with something like recognition. The rituals, the warnings, the desperate bargains, none of it was just about survival. It was about transformation. The hunt doesn't just take, it reshapes, and what walks away is never quite the same as what entered the woods. Somewhere behind them, a branch snaps. Not from wind, from weight. The traveler doesn't quicken their pace. They've learned this much. Running won't change a thing. The sun climbs higher, its light gilding the treetops, but the shadows between the trunks stay stubbornly dark. The road winds on, endless as the tale it's part of, and the traveler, they walk, not toward an ending, but into the next verse, because some stories don't conclude. They echo, and the echoes, like riders in the dark, are always listening.